The two most common questions I see repeatedly on every forum, Facebook page, channel, you name it, from any current or prospective students of SDI are what tools do I get and when do I get my gun? All right, this might be the most important interview I've ever done. Well, to some of you, the very small amount. Those who are asking those exact questions right now. I was able to corner the director of fulfillment for Sonoran Desert Institute while I was at SHOT Show. I was even able to use their booth to get answers to questions regarding supplies, tools, and even the firearms that many students have. You probably had them too. Don't lie. Yep, that's right. I got to talk to the one person who had the answer to the greatest mystery in the SDI universe. When am I going to get my gun? When am I going to get my gun? When is it showing up? When do I get my guns? Hey everybody, we have a rare opportunity right now. I'm here with Jeff, who's the director of fulfillment at SDI. And, a lot of you guys might have questions about, why your tools may look different than some tools you see in somebody else's video or my videos when you're going through it. And, have questions about how the whole process works. So, Jeff, I really appreciate you doing this interview. And,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, can you
Happy
tell
to
us
do
a
it.
little bit about your role and what you do for SDI?
So I oversee all the fulfillment operations. That would be everything from receiving the raw product in that we create our lab materials from, to building the lab materials, shipping them out to the students, but overseeing the FFL department. Everything that has to do with student materials and the life cycle of those materials goes through my department.
That includes the firearms, the tools,
Absolutely.
the books that come out, everything, huh?
Absolutely. So yeah, the SDI books, those also come from us. If you get a lab book with all of your lab materials. But overall, in your question there was that what do we supply? It's everything that you get as a student, as far as even the swag.
Yeah.
You get your
Yeah.
student your welcome kit.
Yeah.
That comes from us too.
Yeah. One of the questions that I hear repeatedly is when somebody gets to some of the firearms courses, you always hear, when am I going to get my gun? When am I going to get my gun? When is it showing up? Or, how does that all work? When do you guys generally ship out the firearms for a course that maybe is about to start?
So that can be really tricky, right? Because we have a federal firearms law, and
Right.
then we have all these smatterings of state and local laws that kind of restrict ages and what you can own and what kind of configuration. So we generally start shipping out states that have some kind of waiting periods or some kind of compliance issues 13 days prior to the course start, just so we get it to them. We ship it on a 2-day express, so that when the FFL gets it, it gives that student plenty of time to get the firearm. But some firearms, such if they're not in restricted states, such as like they need a firearm for their new start for their handguns, we don't ship those out till that Monday because they don't use it that first week. It's not needed till the second week. Gives them plenty of time to get it there. There's no restriction on 10-day waits or anything like that. So this way we hold it up until the very first week.
So if you're in a class right now and you haven't received it, don't panic. It's coming. It's on its way. So.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the you're anticipating you're going to get it. Hey, I put my designation form in for my FFL several weeks ago. Still haven't heard anything, and I know it's getting close to the time. One of the problems we do see is a lot of students use their personal email, and all of the tracking goes to the student email. So if you're not checking your student email consistently, you're not seeing your tracking, and a lot of the tracking emails we get are, hey, I haven't got tracking. Well, you're sending it from your Google account. So check your SDI account.
If a student does have an issue, what do they need to do in order to
just contact us? You can email us at shipping@sdi.edu. You can call the main shipping number. Those are on your packing slips. When you get your packing slip for your materials, those are on there. So if you've gotten previous materials and you're missing one right now, you still have that. Or you can call the main number and just tell them, I want to speak to somebody in shipping. They'll put you right through.
How big is your team?
Right now, it's myself and 7 others.
Okay, that's so put it into perspective. You have 7 people in your team. How many packages do you have to ship out at the start of each class cycle?
So it would depend on the courses, how many have materials, how many don't. On firearms courses, some of them are 3 shipments. You get the firearm, you're going to get a tool kit, and a build kit sometimes, right? If it's a rifle and you're getting a strip lower, that's your firearm, and then you've got 2 other packages. So it can kind of vary, but we shipped out, I want to say about 40,000 packages over the last 6 months, maybe.
40,000, seven
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
40,000 packets. So if you had an issue, the percentage of people that are having issues is so minute. It just that's insane. I mean, it's really impressive, honestly, the logistics that go into it.
I mean, packages get lost, packages get stolen.
Sure.
Students move, and they don't tell us sometimes. And I mean, we'll reship it if it gets lost. But we encourage students to, don't only put a change in with your USPS to have your mail forwarded, but call us and change your address, because we don't necessarily ship USPS, and it's not going to get forwarded through
Right.
FedEx, right? So let us know as soon as you move. It'll make things easier for you and us, and it won't delay your packages.
How do you determine what tools you're going to send out?
So that's all determined by the academic curriculum side. They're approved for a particular course. It's quite a complicated backdoor process, right? Where everybody has to sign off on this. There's costs involved. There's is it needed for the course? Things of that nature. So once they make those decisions, they pass the list off to me. This is what we're looking to supply for this new course or for this new iteration of the same course. And then I have to go and look at those parts. Do I currently have any of those that we're working with those vendors? Or can I even get those in quantities that are going to be needed to supply for the student?
Sure.
If not, we start working with some outside manufacturers to see if they can retool and make those parts for us on a quantity that we would need to supply the student.
40,000 shipments, that's a lot of coordination with outside vendors and everything
Yeah, you
else.
got to figure that 40,000 is not only materials, though. That could be welcome kits. That could be replacement parts. So let's say you're working on your striker fire, and all of a sudden your spring goes bing, and you can't find it. Now you've called us up and you've needed a new spring. We have to send that replacement spring to you. We'll get it out to you as fast as we can. But that's a package.
Yeah.
So if you've got 20 or 30 students right there that need springs and things, that stuff adds up very fast.
Yeah. And we've all lost a spring, so yeah. So I'm assuming you guys are sending out a lot of those springs, especially these new gunsmiths that are doing this stuff.
Absolutely.
Like you said. So.
Or they break things because they think it's the right part of it. Things happen.
Yeah.
You're learning.
Yeah.
So when you learn, sometimes things get broken, sometimes things get lost, and we're there to help you get through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about the firearms. We've talked about the tools. Why do some people receive a different, like a DPMS or Aero Precision or, that kind of thing?
So we generally source from two different vendors for the modern sporting rifle,
Okay.
DPMS and Firearms, DPMS, PSA. They're all one company, right?
Sure.
And then you have Aero Precision. The Aero Precision doesn't come in any quantities that we can ship out as much as we can with the DPMS, right? We ship what we have on site. The only times we dedicate shipping Aero Precisions is for some restricted states where they have to have certain barrels.
California, things like that.
California would be one of them. It's not necessarily a barrel issue in California, but in like Maryland and New Jersey and New York, they have to have unthreaded barrels, and they just seem to work better with those builds, so we ship those builds. But 9 out of 10, we're shipping DPMS or PSA most of the time. That's just because that's what we have in house the most. We get the most out of that, and we really can't supply the students with the other build as much.
So, I've heard a lot of people that have said, hey, how do I influence what type of gun they're sending me or what brand or whatever? That's off the table. So, or is that,
It's really off the table. So I'll give you another example for the 1911, right?
Okay.
We usually ship a thesis service model to most of the states. However, in California, it's not on the list, thesis. So they have to get a Arms Corps 1911. So that's about the
I believe
only...
I had Rock Island when I did my
Rock Island is
yeah.
Arms Corps. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, Rock
Okay.
Island is a brand of Arms Corps. But we were required to send what's on that list. So in that case, there is a little bit of hey, I'm going to get a certain gun because I live in a certain state. But there is no way to influence any of the builds. It's what we have in house, what we have available to ship out. And like I said, normally it's the DPMS. So those come in much, much larger numbers than the Aero does. So therefore, we hold the Aeros back mostly for restricted unless we start having a low shortage on DPMS, which doesn't happen very much.
So maybe don't send those emails begging for a particular brand,
Or for
I need
different...
Daniel Defense. I need,
Yeah, you're not gonna, because you're learning, right? We send you the tools you need to perform the task
learn
for that course.
Yeah.
So can you make do with what you have in order and put this gun together and make it functional? And then if you haven't ruined any parts and asked for replacement parts or whatever it may be, then you can feel confident to buy one of those more expensive build kits or components to build that gun that you really want, and you have some experience doing it without ruining it the first time. Especially if you're a new student, you've never done it before. If you're a student that's coming in, I want to get this like more knowledge. I've done a bunch of builds. That might be a little different. Those are the ones maybe who are looking for a little higher end build or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're there to teach you the fundamentals and how to use the tools and everything. We're not there to supply you with the highest end tools. We're there to give you what will get you through this course to make you understand the components of it and help you be a better gunsmith, a better machinist, whatever it may be that you're trying to do.
Last question.
Yeah.
So we talked about this a little bit ahead. If you're watching older videos from SDI, you're going to see a completely different setup with a lot of the 80% and everything else. Can you explain why SDI moved away from the 80% and kind of more into the traditional lowers and stuff that we're seeing now?
That's a great question, and that was really needed for us to move to FFL. Back about right around the COVID time, there was legislation coming over. Actually, it wasn't legislation, more rules from the ATF, right? That they were going to require serialization on all 80%ers. And we had a bunch of states that were starting to say, no, we're not going to allow them to be sold in these states. So we made the decision, and we had already been talking about it, that we were going to get an FFL, and we were going to go away from the building, the 80%ers, having them all milled out or whatever.
Right.
And we were going to start setting complete strip lowers and setting out firearms. And our model was to get into these handgun courses and things like that. So that's where we're at now, right? So I would say that was the motivating factor of getting rid of the APET, was the regulations coming on the pike and just the future of where we saw the company going, where we were going to have an FFL. Let's go this route. If it's going to be difficult for students to do some of the lowers in many of the states, and it was just complicated.
Sure.
And we didn't want liability for any students and stuff. So that we just basically made that decision. Now, that's just where we're at now.
That's currently. The future could be different.
And tomorrow could be different, right? Every state changes. Like just recently, we had another couple states who said you have to be 21 in order to own a firearm, no matter what firearm, shotgun or whatever. So we have to always keep monitoring what's going on in the legislatures of the local governments as well as what the federal government's doing. Make sure that we're meeting the requirements of those localities so that we're not doing anything that's
I can't imagine how complicated it is, because the curriculum at SDI is constantly evolving. It's constantly moving. There are new classes just since I graduated. They've added the pistol course that's out now, the handgun course. They've added a lot of other classes.
Yes.
And they're basically, hey, Jeff, here's a new class. This is what I need. And you guys are, that's got to be just a heck of a job. But you guys are
exciting.
Kicking ass,
it's exciting. I mean, it can be when it can be a little intimidating when they first roll out a whole bunch of new stuff that they want us to get and we're trying to procure it. But yeah, it's exciting. It's growth, and it's giving more opportunities to learn new things for our students. The more we're able to roll out some new programs and courses and things of that nature.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you doing this. Hopefully this answered questions for you guys that you might not have been able to answer. Be flexible in the tools and the firearms that you receive, and know that this is 7 guys that are doing this for all of you guys. So really appreciate it again. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thanks, Talon. Appreciate you.
Yeah. So the bottom line is it's coming. There's no reason to panic. Make sure you check in your student email, because that's where all the communications from the shipping department are going to go. Make sure your address is updated. Be patient. There's 7 people handling tens of thousands of shipments each course cycle. The tools you get are designed to allow you to complete the coursework for that course. There's no way to influence what you're sent. So don't waste your time. Don't send emails. Don't get crazy. Don't be one of those people, Karen. Hopefully I asked the questions you had for the fulfillment director, and if I didn't, please leave those questions in a comment below and I'll do my best to get those answers for you. As always, thank you for watching, and to my very small but very loyal set of subscribers, thank you especially. I will have another video interview coming your way here shortly, and I think you'll really get something out of it. We'll see you next time.